today for this meeting with Shaping Women in STEM Africa. We're so delighted to have you. And could you please give us a brief introduction of yourself?
Okay, thank you for inviting me. I'm Raheemat Rafiu. I'm currently a 50-year PhD chemistry candidate at Missouri University of Science and Technology. Before starting, I had my bachelor's degree in chemistry at Obafemi Awolowo University in Nigeria, and I finished in 2010. Aside that, I also run the graduate school hub, which is like a mentorship company for international students who want to study in the US. And I've been doing that for about 5 years now. So that's like a brief introduction of me.
Wow, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And you mentioned that you founded the Graduate Hub. Is that supposed to be for just science students or just anyone who's looking for admission, or what is it really about?
So it's more for anyone and it's international. So aside from people in Nigeria, we've also worked with like students from Bangladesh, from India. So it's more of like an international, yeah.
Okay. And what exactly does the program offer? The Graduate Hub. What does your organization offer?
So I would just have from like a brief motivation behind it. So when I was coming here, if I didn't know somebody who graduated from my school, it helped me through the process. It would be very difficult. So I just felt it shouldn't be the case of you need to know somebody before you can have someone walk you through the process. So the intention was to create a platform where people could have that guidance. Of course, like we always reinforce it, it's not an agency. So it's not a case of we pay money and then everything is done for you and you get it. It's more of a mentorship. So, but then it's personalized. So instead of having like a huge WhatsApp filled with people from different backgrounds, I interact with each one of them personally. Everybody's needs are different. The kind of schools recommended to them differ based on their background. We try to make it as personalized as possible so people can maximize that. So we take students through the mentorship process, which involves documentation review, how to reach out to professors, the application process to whatever questions they have. And even after they've gotten admitted, the visa process is we also take them through that. So it's more like an all-in-all guidance through the state of applying to graduate school. And though most students really try to get to the US because of the abundance of scholarships, we've also had minds from studying in Italy, other parts of Europe, people in Canada. So it just depends on the preference of the person who wants to apply.
That's interesting. Wow. Thank you so much for shedding some light on your organization. That's wonderful to know. So, back to your career in STEM and in chemistry. That's interesting. What initially sparked your interest in chemistry, and how has it, inspired and informed your background so far?
Yeah, so I would say when I was in secondary school, it was time to choose what to study, and everybody was so confused. Like, how do you decide what to study in university? But something I was sure was that I loved chemistry, and there was a chemistry teacher I had back then. I loved that so much. She would buy you more textbooks aside from the ones recommended in the class, and I would, like, what textbook is fine? And then I would buy more. It was just because I loved her. I just loved that part. Thereabout. So that was how it started. And then when it was time to study, to decide what to study in school, my father is a medical doctor, but I never considered medicine. So I knew like everybody was like, oh, good grade for medicine, but it never crossed my mind. And because of the nature of the job, too, unlike other parents who would want to motivate their children to study medicine, my dad was always like being upfront about the reality of the job. So it wasn't very enticing when it started. So and then he was like, oh yeah, I love chemistry. What course that is famous in Nigeria is related to chemistry? So I was like, oh, I could do pharmacy. And then I think it was my side. I think I wrote JAM in 2013, and that was when they started the computer based. for JAM. And the results were terrific. I would say, like, the people who wrote the computer-based test that was new, they had very nice scores compared to people who stuck to the wood paper-based testing. So, long story short, I had 200 on the dot, and I cried. I had great hopes. Like, I would study this and that, and I knew I wanted to attend a good university. 200 was like the bare minimum that I could do. In fact, like, for Obafemi Awolowo University I attended, the minimum is 200. No matter what, you have to have 200. So I was really sad because I prepared so much. I thought I would do well. But for the post-UTME for OAU, I think 260 something. Eventually, when they had it, I think they had that program score divided by 2, and that's what determines what the score is. So I was around 230 something. And for pharmacy, you would need like so much higher than that because too many people. So I met with somebody who was like, "Oh, you cannot make pharmacy, you have to like consider." So I decided to choose chemistry myself because I knew the alternative would be like throw me into biology, something else, and I didn't want that surprise. So I just chemistry myself because, well, my love for pharmacy was because of chemistry. I was just like, let me just do that to grassroots. And I knew like I applied to Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, too, and I took chemistry in that school. And I chose pharmacy in OAU. So it wasn't too bad for me to say I wanted to choose chemistry. So I just chose chemistry. I got, that was how it started.
Wow, that's wonderful. I'm sorry, you were saying something. I interrupted.
Oh, no, go ahead. That's fine.
Okay, okay, right. But wow, that's amazing. So from there, you just did your master's and PhD in
Oh,
chemistry.
so I finished my bachelor's, and then in the US, usually you can do like a direct PhD because the PhD programs are structured in a way that you take the coursework required for a master's degree alongside. In some schools, you get a master's degree maybe like after 2 years. In my school, you don't necessarily get a master's degree, but if you want, when you're done with your PhD, you can apply for a master's too. You can qualify for both. So it depends. So, but then it's not unusual for universities in the US not to require a master's degree before you proceed to a PhD. So immediately I finished, the fact I did my convocation December 2018. I was here January 2019. So that was like how I started. So I didn't do a master's. I just went through it with a PhD.
Oh wow, that's nice. And you said this is your fifth year, so
Yes.
I guess you would be done soon.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, congratulations on that first. And just based on your PhD research, can you share any time, any experience where your skills were instrumental in making a difference or solving a significant problem? It could be based on your current research or just anything that you've done in the past.
Yes, I would say that when I wanted to start the PhD for a very long time, like it was just something I'm like, oh yeah, I would get a PhD, but I didn't really understand what it was about. And maybe it's good that I did not, because if someone sat me down and said, "Oh, it's so scary and you would be clueless so many days and you cry a lot," I'll be like, "No, I'm not doing this." So I entered like, very innocent and, "Oh, I love chemistry, let's do more." But it wasn't it wasn't that way. There was a lot of learning because for me, I love to read. I love to study. Sometimes like when I'm in a bad mood, I read. Like reading is that. And then but I just realized with the program, like it's not about reading. You have to do something new. And to do something new, you have to fail a lot. And I wasn't used to failing. It was a new terrain for me. So I was used to do the hard work to get the results. Once you do what you're supposed to do, you get the results. But for a PhD, you have to do your absolute best and still do like get what you need to get. And that took like so many years of learning. When I first started, I would do an experiment, it would fail, I'd try for 2 days, and then go back and do it. Then eventually it was like I started embracing the failure. I started anticipating the failure. I started getting to the point, oh, still, what am I going to do next? What's the next thing for me? And that opened my mind to the point that there were so many experiments I did that did not work, because in my research, I did synthetic organic chemistry, which is basically if someone else has made someone do something before, like type of drug, type of chemical, type of compound, and you're trying to find a new method of making it. In my case, I wanted it to be more environmentally sustainable and just to simplify the process. So that meant like a lot of failure along the way. So many things we planned at the end stage, like it worked out beautifully. That never happened. So, but I would say like one thing that has helped me so far, and I have bad days, I have bad weeks. I have some time where, it would just be very difficult for me to see the end at the end of the tunnel. But one thing that really helped me was being comfortable with failure, which was something I'm used to coming from my background, and it's also like a peril of being the best student all the time, because it's something I always share with people when you hear best student student. A PhD can change that, like you would be like, so I just kind of I stopped internalizing failures of my experiments, and I started thinking out for it. And my internship also helped with that, because in the industry, it's about solving a problem. If it doesn't work, it's not you. It's not something wrong with you. It's not your skill. So I started exercising, like, okay, this is what I am doing. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, I just have to think about it. I need to seek help instead of thinking something is wrong with me. And then I also now have to realize, like, sometimes when something does not work, it might be because I'm getting a skill, or I'm not being patient to go through the rigor of what it requires. And even though like I'm not be skillful in that part, it's not like it's the advantage. It's just something I can learn, and it's just kind of a process, I would say.
Oh, oh, that's really interesting. Glad to hear that PhD involves a lot of failing and succeeding, finally, because I guess that's how you graduate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's wonderful. And can you describe a mentor or role model who has played a significant role in your career so far?
I would say my chemistry teacher in high school, because we still talk till now. I visit her at least 3 times a year. And that was even where I had my wedding. I had my wedding in her house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was one like we've been super close, and it's been like she knew me before she had her first child. So she tells everybody, oh, this is my first daughter. So she's such a strong woman. And one thing I loved about her was, I mean, this was like when I was in secondary school. This was maybe like 2010, 2011. But then she loved what she was teaching, and the way she carried herself, she had this very optimistic way of viewing life. And we talked about I love to have intelligent conversations, and with her I could do that. Like I remember, like I watched Three Idiots in her house, and we dissected the film and the peril of intelligence and how brilliance is viewed by different people in different ways. So I had like that exposure. Like we would watch documentaries together. Like she would expose us. The first iPad I ever saw in my life was in her house. Like, like so seeing her and how she was, just doing her thing and being a woman and succeeding kind of inspired me. Even though she left chemistry, now she's doing something related to like computer science. And I say it every time, like she deserted me. Like she taught me chemistry and then she left. It's just seeing her and the confidence and just the optimism of just trying to be a better person than me. I think that she's like one of the first role models I have had. And then in my PhD, two of my mentors are people who they've gone through the PhD journey and they prepare me for everything. Like they prepare me for the things they could have done that they did not do. They've prepared me for the reality. They prepared me for, you might expect this to happen, but it would not. Even when it comes to job search, an entirely different conversation. But having people who have been there and who have shown that, this is the path you might not be easy. There might be like some pain in the process, but if you stick through, maybe something will come out. So those are like, I would say, like the people who look forward to my career.
Wow, that's so wonderful. And just out of curiosity, based on your experience so far with your PhD in chemistry, is this a path that you would recommend?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Because, when I talk to people is because the way I am, I love to dissect processes. And what I mean by that is, even in my company, it's something I do every day. But if you're doing something, I like to ask, like, is there a better way to do this? Or like, I just don't like to stick to, "Oh, this is how it's been done, and it's just going to remain with that." So coming here, experiencing my PhD and having friends, because I have a lot of people, reaching out to me. I have so many friends who talk to me about their journeys. Is I know like the process could be better when it comes to supporting students, and I know like also there's a counter argument of it's your PhD, suffer through, do this and do that, even without support. But I'm a big fan of mental health, and I don't joke with it. I don't believe to get a good career or to get a good life, we need to be miserable. Some of the opinion that something would be easier, like, it doesn't mean like it wouldn't be worth it. It doesn't mean if people are not traumatized before the graduate, like the PhD is not worth it. So it's just, but now the kind of advice I give to people is what to look out for in choosing schools, asking the right questions when deciding the professor to work with. I would not just come and be like, well, I don't pursue a PhD. It's just, it's a hard journey, but then the kind of decisions you make kind of shapes your experience in the journey. So just give people tips. This is how you make sure the professor you're choosing is also a big fan of mental health. And it's not just only about work, but they have to care about you as a person. They have to be approachable. It's just like somebody could, I would definitely recommend it. But I was clueless when I started, but I always try to give people the honest opinion now. And also to make sure like this is what they really want. Like no matter what, no matter how hard the journey is, sometimes that's all you want. You just go through. So of course, it's a journey I would recommend.
It's nice. That's nice. And in the nearest future, what are some of the goals that you hope to achieve in your field, career, or just in general?
Yeah. Um, I like to lead in a company. Not necessarily, I'm not sure what my career with chemistry is going to look like. I know I'm going to start as a scientist of sort, but my final goal is to be in the management process, is to be like in the leadership process, because I love people, and I used to, because aside from my academics, I've also been involved in a lot of like politics, school politics. Like I was a vice president of academic affairs, I think, for last session. And I attended a lot of events. I represented the school. And I realized that because before it used to be about when I was in during my undergrad, like I wouldn't take up a leadership position, but I would complain and say, "Oh, that person is not doing right. That person is not doing right." But when they say, "All right, come on," I'll be like, "Oh no, I'm a volunteer. I don't want to be a leader." And then I realized, like, if you do not do this, you can't keep complaining when people who might have different intentions or might not just even care about people at all. When they go there, they do the work. When they call on you and you say no, like you cannot complain. So that was what made me say, let me also get into a leadership position and affect the change I really want to see. So that has been like something I would say like kind of like change, just me leading and just the process. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for your time today. And just before we close the interview, just what advice would you give to young women who are starting in STEM, maybe from secondary school or even from their undergraduate, and they decide that they want to pursue a career in STEM or specifically in chemistry?
Number one thing I would say is having a goal that is bigger than you are is very important, because as a child I was free to dream, even though I didn't know I didn't know the details. And even like for my years, which I didn't know the details, but something I had in mind for a very long time was, oh, I'm going to get a PhD in chemistry. And I just kept that in mind. So throughout school, when everything was tough, when people would say like, when you graduate from chemistry, there's no job in Nigeria, there's nothing to do with the degree and all of these things. And sometimes that discourage people from doing their best in exams, because it's like it's not to matter anyway. This degree would not count a lot for me. I held on to, I'm here, I'm going to do the best with what I have, even though like I did not know what the future would hold at the time. So I said like have a big goal, 5, 10 years down the line, even like from secondary school, even if someone intends, so I want to get a PhD or I want to do this and that. I feel that big goal shapes every little and tiny decision that the person makes. And especially as for women, especially, there's this understanding. I know like this is a very controversial topic of, as a woman, your career just takes a place and everything you need to do, you to put like a man at the forefront, or like just put the family at the forefront, and the career should take a back end. And I understand like there are so many girls like who don't have the leadership to just stand up in the morning and say, I want to do this. Because there's so many people who would say, how dare you? This is what you should be doing with your life. You should be doing it. But what I would say is having that big goal, even if there are obstacles right now, even if you do not know how the journey would be, what I've learned is, even though the realities of life might steer you away from the goal, you have something you really want to do in your mind, even if you do not have a clearly laid out, you will keep coming back to it. So that's like one strong advice I would give. Like, no matter how unsustainable or unrealistic the goal is, if it's something you really want to do, just keep it close to your heart and make sure every tiny decision you make kind of leads you to that goal.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for your time today, Rahimat. It's been wonderful having this interview with you, and even from learning from your experiences, and even about your organization as well, the Graduate Hub. This is wonderful. And to just about your organization, does that also cover scholarships, or you just help people with finding connecting with professors and getting through the application process?
Oh, so the main goal is funding, because I came here with a fully funded scholarship, because I, especially now with the exchange rate, it would be very difficult. There's some people can still afford it, but because I couldn't afford the payment, we're talking about $50,000 or so per year. And because it was not something I could afford, the goal of the company was not just get admission and that's it. It's more about the assistance side to get scholarship for the program. So that's like the main goal of the program.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's interesting to know. And thank you so much for your time today. It's been a lovely time. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
All right. Bye.
Yeah.